Hi, everybody, and welcome to another evening of Why Can't We Be Friends? Tonight, our topic is multiple races, one human. And we have three lovely panelists joining us for this evening's conversation. One of our panelists is going to be joining us by phone conference, so you won't be able to see her picture until perhaps later. And the rest of our panelists are here as well. We are slowly watching people come in. If you've been here before, you know that in the chat, we are going to put a link to something called Slido. This is where you can click in and either ask questions, vote for questions that have already been submitted for me to ask the panelists, and we will kind of roll through those questions. We are GTX Connect. I am premiering our new t-shirt. Yes, here it is. Why can't we be friends? The new t-shirt,
Yeah.
the new logo. We have children's sizes. And we are in partnership with Dell Medical's community-driven initiatives. We are proud to have them as a partner with us on this journey. And so with that, I will go ahead and ask our panelists to introduce themselves to us this evening.
Hi, I'm Aisha, and I am multiracial, obviously. My dad's Black and my mom is Mexican, and so, yep, I just grew up in Georgetown that way, I guess.
Cool. Same, I guess, same background, Hispanic and Black. My name's Michael. I was born here in Austin, grew up around, but came back, later in my childhood. So, so that's pretty much it. Graduated from Pflugerville High School. So, yeah.
I'm Justin. I'm multiracial. The person you heard first is my sister. She's my baby sister, and she's really bossy sometimes. That's okay. You're gonna love her like I do. I grew up in Georgetown. I'm socially awkward. Thank you.
That was an excellent introduction, Justin. So I am dog sitting this evening. So if you guys hear some strange dog happenings, you'll know why. And I also am from Texas. We were talking about this before. My name is Kelly, and I'm one of the co-producers, and I'm going to be working our way through these questions this evening. And as I said earlier, I am a fifth-generation Texan, and one of my proudest accomplishments is making a sixth-generation Texan.
Awesome.
So if everybody hasn't had an opportunity, go ahead and check out that chat box at the bottom of the screen in Zoom. Not the panelists, but the attendees. That's where you can go to view questions again and to ask questions or to vote on questions that have already been asked. And it does all of this in real time for us. So you can do that at any point in time. And I'm going to go ahead and I kind of go back and forth between the Slido page so I can read the questions and the Zoom. So if you see me kind of going back and forth, that's what's going on with me. And I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with our first question. And it says, have you seen the attitude toward mixed race families change over the years for the better or for the worse? That is the first question, and anybody can kick us off who wants to answer that. Aisha, just a heads up, you are muted, and that's okay. I'm just letting you know, just in case. So.
Yeah, I didn't know if y'all could hear all the background noise, so I was just gonna unmute and mute.
Cool.
But I can go ahead. I mean, I guess I live a little bit differently because I don't notice a lot of things like that, mainly because I just choose to tune it out if it is happening. So I feel like maybe the attitudes have gotten better, or maybe I just don't really even pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah, I could pretty much just call off on that. I think more now it's more like it's more of like family. I think it's the people that you're close to that you kind of get it more from than it's people outside. I think for me, also being, I guess we call it the double dip relationship where I'm interracial and then I'm with another, person outside of my race. So when we have I mean, I think after like, going through it, I guess with my mom being Hispanic and the way that my dad's side treated her, it was more like they were more welcoming because I guess I mean, in a sense, you think about Hispanics, we're double minorities. So we're more accepting to each other than we would, the other race, the Caucasian race. So, definitely my perspective is a lot different. I mean, I still kind of see the world for what it is, but I think it's more eternally because people feel more comfortable with the people, especially on my girl side of the family who's Caucasian, you kind of see it, especially like with her dad. Her dad, he's not really very welcoming about it, but he's a lot older. So you kind of just learn to accept that, okay, he's in his 70s, he kind of grew up this way. This is who he is, regardless of, his, grandchildren being, being Black and, I think just dealing with that because then it kind of destroys the relationship that, not only she has or that she could potentially have with her father, but, the relationship that he could have with his grandchildren. So I think that's probably the main thing at this part in my life, at least, that I've seen it to where it's like, oh, wow, that's crazy. It's sad more of anything that this is what it's come down to, because we've dealt with other situations, but it's been more verbal and it's just more of just out of insecurity and, oh, you're with that, woman and this, that, and so things like that. So that's what I got from it so far in this 25 years living here.
Thank you, Michael.
I don't know, it's a little weird for me. I'm more like my sister. I don't really like see it. I try to tune it out for the most part because I mean, it is what it is. You can't really do anything about it. People are going to be people, whether they get better or worse. I try not to pay attention, but I see that it's like getting on both sides a little bit. My wife talks about it more than I do.
Yeah,
she's also
and just
mixed.
too, we have another situation is basically like we also have our cousins that are our little sisters. So I mean, we've been so mixed that we don't notice it, I feel like. But also it's like if my dad goes in the store with my little sister, me, my brother, my mom, they don't know what to think because my little sisters, they look like my mom and it looks like my dad has nothing to do with it. And then it just gets weird. So I think we notice those situations more, but it's not uncomfortable. It's just like, yeah, I don't want to explain the whole thing to y'all.
Yeah, me walking around with my son is basically the same way.
So I see on here that another one of the questions specifically does mention how you're treated by other family members. Here it is. Do you have members of your own family that have been racist toward you? So I think Michael definitely touched on that, talking about his father-in-law. And I'm wondering if, Michael, maybe you have other instances that not just your father-in-law, or if Aisha or Justin, if you guys have anything to say about that within your own family.
Not within our family.
I was going to say, I don't think I know of anyone in our family. I think it was just always been accepted. Now we do know like how my grandma was towards my, mom dating my dad at the beginning. Like they've told us that story and that's the only thing. But I mean, by the time we had met our grandparents, or like really remembered our grandparents, that wasn't really a thing.
Yeah, just to kind of like piggyback off that, it's pretty much the same. It's just I think for me, when being with my spouse, I think I kind of got a little bit from more of my dad's side of the family. just more of just I think they just had nothing better to do but to just kind of antagonize, because she, her being the only, technically, other than my mom, minority, my mom's Hispanic, and her being Caucasian, technically being the only Caucasian in the family, technically, it was kind of like something that, they poked at. But, after we had our children, it kind of just like all that stuff kind of just faded away. And it was just like, all right, well, we're done talking about you guys. Let's talk about the babies, so it's just, once the babies came, I think all that stuff, they kind of just realized like, all right, it's here, they're here, they're together, I think if anything, that just having our kids, I think kind of brought the family a little bit closer together, when it came to accepting and these kind of things. So other than that, no, that's pretty much all I've gotten so far from it. So.
Okay. I'm going to look at the Slido questions. Let's see. So here's one that was voted for. Have you found any instances where your multiple heritages have held conflicting ideas or values? And if so, how did you deal with that? How did you reconcile that? So did your two or multiple different heritages hold conflicting values or ideas?
I think for me, I think growing up, I didn't realize these things, like I said, because, I grew up, being around, people of all colors. So, as I've gotten older and I became more aware of myself, I'm like, oh crap, I've been Black my whole life. I've always looked at myself Black. I just, how it is. And, I'm, on my mom's side, she's not really connected with her side of the family, and so when she's with us, it's kind of like she's part of us. So she's, she's more clicking with the Black side of the family. So they don't see that Hispanic side. So I wish I was more in touch with my Hispanic side and, and just got to see that side and where I came from on that end. But I think for now, I think, I got past that midlife identity crisis. So it's just like, I'm just who I am, and this is who I am going to be for the rest of my life. I can't change it. I can't, do anything about it. So, I just learned to accept that I am who I am, and more time people are going to see me as Black. So, I just stay as Black.
I don't know. I think that the only thing that conflicts in heritage is basically what we eat on Thanksgiving and like those kind of things, but we've kind of just blended everything in our family. Like once we were born blended, everything blended, and our parents have kind of held that to that. So we'll get tamales and whatever my dad, well, now we don't do anything traditional at all. So if you've met my dad, he's not very traditional. So, I mean, we've never had that issue because of the fact that our parents, didn't ever hold that standard for us. It wasn't like, you're going to live in the house until you get married kind of thing. It was just, okay, this is how you live life, and you want to be this religion and you want to do this. And, that's just how we grew up. I mean, you can ask my brother maybe more about being an emo and how my parents felt about that. If someone wants to put that in the Slido.
They were totally fine with it. What do you mean? Just let that one go. They should have been more strict.
So what did you guys have for Thanksgiving? Now I have to know. I mean, other than the tamales.
That's all we can remember. No, green bean casserole is a big thing. And then, of course, well, my mom we like deviled eggs, so we always get that. But like my dad, one thing we do is like on New Year's, we have to eat the traditional like collard greens, black eyed peas, and whatever. I don't even remember the meats, but
that's New Year's Day.
Steak?
Right? It's New Year's Day.
New Year's Day. There you go. There you go. And so we do that traditionally, but I don't know. We've had so many different things that I couldn't even tell you, like roast and all sorts of different things. I think last year we had carne guisada.
We did.
Nice. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go back into Slido. Okay. As a mixed race person, do you have issues with people approaching you and asking, "What are you?"
I've gotten that a lot. I'm not gonna lie. But I get it mainly from, again, the more of the black side. Any other race, they're gonna look at me as who I am. They're like, he's black, But you mainly get it from, they say the dominant side. So, they know, hey, we know you're black, but what are you? Are you white? Are you Mexican? And a lot of them, I mean, they'll call me out real quick before anybody else. Well, you mix with Mexican. And then, I guess more because me going to Pflugerville, being in a predominantly black, town or city or whatever you call it, it was a lot of, it was Hispanics and blacks. So, I think for that, on that end, you kind of, you fit in with where you get in. And so when you're trying to click with the black people, it's, are your own, you call them your own, then they're looking at you and talking to you like, oh, you're a mutt and you don't know nothing about this, or they call you pretty boy, or they do all these, sometimes I get picked on, especially playing sports, or, you're not black enough. And, so it's just, I think more of that, just growing up, I guess, just because, high school is what high school is, kids are already tough, and it's already tough being a kid as it is. So, I guess on that end, that was the only time I think I had struggles, was just more of the boys or the men that were my age growing up, kind of like outcasting me, and kind of, when it came to women, I had no problem. It didn't matter what color you were. It was like, I clicked with you, I was cool with you. But when it came to the guys, it was just like, so I think that was the only time. But I think, like I said, we're just at an age now, we're kind of more accepting to what things are. But, I think that's the only time I think I've ever dealt with any troubles with, obviously, because like I said, we didn't ask to be who we are who we are, so.
Yeah, I feel like people inquire a lot, but I don't think it's rude to inquire. Like, it's almost because people, like Michael was saying, like, they just automatically believe you're black. So they maybe want to ask you the question, and maybe they don't want to ask you the question. I don't know, but it's not offensive, because like, I feel like the Mexican side of me doesn't get that attention unless, you say something, or they're like scared to ask. I don't know. But now, I teach school, and I just automatically open with that. Like, as soon as you can connect with more people that way. I'm like, hey, I'm your teacher basically. And then I let them know, like, yeah, I'm half black, I'm half Mexican. I show them my family, all these things. One of my brothers is gay. So he also, like, they're just like, whoa, you fit all of these categories. And it's just so cool to them that they're like, you can make a reference, and some kids understand it, and then some others. And so, I don't know, to me, it's not offensive. So, I don't have those issues. Now, again, high school is a completely different ball game, like when you're in it. But for right now, like, I like it. I like when people ask me, because I'm able to give them a different view of me.
For me, it's more like, I don't care whether you ask, because you're curious. People are going to be curious. They're going to ask you anyway. Actually, I prefer that you would ask than to make assumptions on base what I am.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people get it wrong, and they like come up and they talk to me, and they're like, oh, you must be mixed with like Arab. I'm like, no.
Yes.
That's not even close.
I get that.
Sorry, it's more rude to assume that I'm something else than to just ask me the question. And then you don't have to be rude to be like, like, it's not rude to ask. But like, I don't mind if people ask. It puts it out there. Like, they're like, no, you're not Mexican. Yeah, dude, Mexican. Totally. They're like, no. Like, yeah, all my life, I can't change that. Like, let me see your mom. And then you show them a picture, like, oh, dude, she looks white.
Yep.
She's Mexican. She has like light hair and stuff. I'm like, no, dude, she's a Mexican. She speaks Spanish. She does an entire bit. She's like, oh, it's like, yeah, dude, told you. I'm like, okay. And then when they meet her, they're like, oh yeah, there's no way she's white.
Yeah.
Hey, Kelly, this is Chuck. You mind if I tell a quick story?
Of
Oh,
course
no.
not. I would love for you to, especially since you have two captive hostages.
So no, it's not a story about them. It's a story about Miguel, who's not here tonight. So we were stationed in England when they were very small. As a matter of fact, they all came back with British accents, and they lost them, unfortunately. But which would have made it really diverse, very diverse. But when we were in England, they were too young to know that they were born actually in North Dakota, so they thought they were British. And so when it was time to come home, I told everybody, okay, well, we're gonna go back to America, or no, we're gonna go back home, is what I said. And Miguel says, back to Pakistan? And I'm like, we're not Pakistani. But for a couple of years when I was in British school, everyone assumed he was Pakistani. And so he's trying to answer questions about Pakistani culture and stuff for his teachers. And he believed he was Pakistani right up until we left.
Wow. That's funny. I used to get the Asian. People used to think I was Asian and black because I had cheekbones, and when I'd smile, I'd have the chink eyes. And they'd be like, dude, are you Asian? We knew you were Asian. I'm like, nah, I just have high cheekbones. But I used to go along with that, like, yeah, I'm Asian and black. And, because that's just how they used to see me. But yeah, I mean, that was middle school. That was middle school. I mean, and it's crazy to think, I look back and I'm like, wow, it's just crazy how as a child you conform to these ideas of what people think of you, and you don't even know, you kind of go along with the flow. And then as you get older and you realize who you are, you're just like, oh snap, I've actually been this. And it's just like, it's definitely like I said, it's identity. I think more if people got to know the person, you kind of look past that. They'd be like, oh, this person is, Justin's case, I mean, it looks like he likes Star Wars. A lot of people, if he didn't wear that shirt, a lot of people would not know that he likes Star Wars. So, once you get past that and you realize, oh, this person's just like me. They don't look like me, but they share similar interests, and, you kind of click off base like that. So, I think that's kind of the beauty in us being who we are, because we're all different, but similar. We all do the same things. Our bodies function the same way. We just all look different. That's the only difference between us. And so, that's just what I've learned so far this part in my life. So
yeah,
never assume, for sure.
Well, that goes, and what Chuck said actually goes really well into the next question, which was, did your parents ever talk to you about being mixed race, and what were some of those experiences like? So it's kind of like did they ever talk to you at all about it? And if they did, what were some of those experiences like? If they didn't talk to you about it, maybe you could say what you wish they had told you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that would be hard to answer because so we never got talked to about that. I mean, we just grew up and knew that our parents were Black and Mexican, and that was just how it was. And I don't think I would be able to ask my parents anything about it because they're not mixed. So the things that we went through in high school and, the random things that, okay, you deal with some racism that happens, both to Blacks and Mexicans. So that's not like we would have a conversation about racism maybe, but not like being mixed, because they don't know what it's like to be mixed either. Like it's an internal, identity crisis going through middle school and high school. You're just like, who am I? What am I doing? On top of the already middle school, high school, who am I? What am I doing? Thoughts. So, but yeah, they never had that conversation, nor would we ask them. I don't know what I would ask them.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Justin.
Oh, okay. I didn't really, the same for me. They didn't really talk to me about it either. You just kind of grew up mixed. So like you dealt with it as you came. But like during like high school, that like, who was it, me? I just kind of like, you tend not to think about who I'm trying to be Black or Mexican. It's just like, you like skateboarding? I like skateboarding. We're skateboarding? Okay, cool. We hang out, we're skaters, right? Or like some other identifier to hold on to that wasn't based on race, because that way you would connect with more people. Because you're never really enough for either side. You're always going to be like half the result. right? Or, you know, you add up to 2 whole people, which doesn't make any sense either. And I don't know what
Humans,
else
that's
to tell you.
real.
Like, I happen to be both. I'd rather be a skater though. Let's do that. That's what I would do. Because it's easier. It's easier to deal with and it's easier to connect.
Yeah, I talked to my dad. I mean, the later years of me growing up with my family, because I didn't meet my mom and my dad until later year, and till I was like 13 years old. So kind of growing that relationship with them and kind of learning their ends on my mom's side, when my grandpa and my grandma found out that, you know, she was with the black man. And at first they didn't like him, but, you know, when they found out that he was, you know, hardworking and caring at the time, you know, they you know, again, they looked past it and kind of was like, well, you know, this guy has high character. So, you know, I think for him, he grew up, because, you know, he's from Austin as well. He went to Westwood High School. So, you know, being in that area, in the Cedar Park, Leander area back in the 90s, when it was predominantly white, he was the only black guy in a lot of his classes. So, you know, it's obviously one of those things. And same with me. You know, I went to school in Georgetown as well. I went to Eastview and Cedar Park, Leander. I was all out in this area, being, again, the only black kid in a lot of my classes. So, you know, those were one of the things that where I knew, I was like, oh, you know, and, you know, of course, you know, everybody wants to talk to you because you're the only guy that doesn't look like anybody in the class. So, you know, when they come up to you and they kind of want to figure out who you are, it's kind of tough because you have so many different perspectives of how people see you. You know, you don't look black, you know, but you know, or what are you, Puerto Rican, or what are you know? So, you know, it's just one of those things that, you know, at the end of the day, it's like I said, we didn't choose to be. We're just who we are, and we are in the situations that we are in, and we are where we're at. So, you know, it's definitely. I think, like I said, with my parents now, you know, I think I haven't talked to them too much about the race thing. You know, I talked to my dad a lot because, like I said, he went to Westwood, so it was predominantly white. So he pretty much, you know, you're a product of your environment and you like what you like and you are where you're around. So, you know, yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, that's all I can get from that situation. So.
Yeah, and I think that's such a future question. I think there's going to be a lot of mixed kids that if we did this in 10 years and we asked them, you know, us as parents now will be like, hey, you know, when your grandma starts speaking in Spanish, clean something, you know, that's the things that we can warn them about, you know, about these 2 different races. Or, hey, you know, high school is going to be hard because you don't have this, you know, you're not all this and all that. And sometimes that can affect you, but times are also changing. So we won't know what it looks like in 10 years.
Yeah, it's almost, yeah. Oh, I was going to say, sorry, real quick. I was just going to say, it's just almost now you're starting to see more of it. It's more popular now. Interracial is more popular now than it is, you know, of course, you know, 20 years ago. I mean, now it's almost kind of like a fad. And so, you know, it's, you know, you're seeing a lot of older, you know, generations. You're seeing a lot of older white men with, you know, with women of different races. You're starting to see a lot of older white women or you know, Caucasian women with men of other races. So you're starting to see the diversity come out a lot more. And talking to a lot of these older folks, it's like, yeah, I've always, but you know, again, being here in Texas, things were different back then. You know, I've always had this, but you know, I just didn't know how my family would, or I was with this one person when I was younger, and you know, and so, you know, it's crazy to think now that, like I said, what we're seeing now, it's always been going on. It's just now you're starting to see it advertised and marketed a lot more, and people are coming out of the, you know, the woodworks like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what I've been, or this is what I've liked. So it's just, I think now, like I said, it probably shouldn't, but it probably would be an issue. But I don't see it being, you know, an issue later on. You know, again, you know, we're growing as a country, so it's good to see that we're on the later end of that. You know, when you hear stories of, you know, oh, we had to go through this in the 50s and 60s, and you're like, man, I couldn't imagine. You know, it's like, man, we're just on the tail end, so we're all good on this end. So I think it's perspective. I think for me, at least, it's just perspective and how you see the world outside and how you see yourself.
That leads into another a question really about time, and it says intermarriage was not decriminalized. Intermarriage between races was not decriminalized until 1967. Is it weird to think about that and that it was really not that long ago? 1967 was when it was decriminalized.
I don't think it's, I mean, it's not weird for us to think about. I feel like if you lived in that time, you would be like, dang, this is crazy. Look at all these kids having fun, dating around, all of this. I wish we could do that. But for us, we're like, what? I was born in 91, so you're all welcome out there if you're feeling a little older. But I don't think about it. I know that's not that long ago, but for me, it's just so normalized, and you know, we just kind of go from there. Someone said they were 3 years old in the chat.
That was your dad. Wait, was that your dad? Yeah, that was your dad.
There you go. So, Dad, how were you thinking about that? No.
At 3, I don't know, my feelings were mixed.
My feelings were mixed. Nice. Okay.
I was gonna say, well, it was I don't know. I know Kathy, she's one of the attendees, she's the one that put me on the chat. She's my CASA worker. So with me growing up in foster care, a kind of a lighter part of my life, it kind of I think that was more of the struggle, because you're already getting taken away from a situation where you're trying to be with your family. And then now, you know, with me, I was with a Hispanic family for almost a year, and that was very interesting. And me being the black sheep, they were Mormons. So living in Georgetown, they would try to enforce and say, oh, well, you know, you're Hispanic. And, you know, they were trying to get me in touch with my Hispanic side, but it just wasn't, you know, wasn't for me, because I grew up, you know, mainly from the black side. So, yeah, and I was going through a lot too. And it's just, like I said, just, again, figuring out, you know, transferring high schools, being in different locations. And but you know, I've come to find out, you know, them being Mormons, you know, they're like, yeah, they didn't allow blacks in their church until 1969. So, you know, just, it's crazy that kind of, you know, once that information got to me, I was just like, maybe this is not what, you know, what I think it is. Because, you know, you think about 1969, that wasn't, you know, a long time ago. That was, you know, half a century. Yeah, it'd be half a century. No, is it century? Century is 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you think about, well, I'm only 25 years old, so 25 years prior to when I was born, like, my parents weren't allowed to get married. So you think, like, man, we've come a long way so far, and obviously, you know, we can only get better. So, I mean, I'm glad I didn't get to experience it, but the stories that I've heard from people who've lived before me, it's like, wow, you know, didn't think that was only 20 years, you know, before you got here. So.
Okay, let's see. Do you think that mixed race people get left out of the conversation about civil rights?
I don't think so. I always think it's a conversation, because everyone's like, you black, right? You mad? I'm just like, yeah, I get it. I understand. Like, it happens to me all the time. It happened to me in high school. I got pulled over every day for a span of, I don't know, 2 years.
Wow.
And where did you go to high school?
Here, Georgetown High School.
Georgetown's, oh man, I hear it, man. Now Georgetown, that's just, it's Wilco, man. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a different world in that area.
It was also a different Wilco.
Yeah. Very intense. Yeah, my dad would tell me stories about Wilco where he's like, dude, to this day, he will not go to Georgetown, like, at all. And he's like, he stands by it. I'm like, dude, it's changed. Nah, I don't care. I'm not going by there. And I'm just like, man, I mean, it's that
I have
bad.
a coworker that I work with. He grew up in like Dallas, like in the McKinney area.
Mhm.
and they have stories about Wilco, that's where you get caught, and then that your parents have to go and pick you up because you got messed up in Wilco. And I was like,
Dang.
oh, what? You lived where? And you're talking about Wilco? Like 3-4 hours away.
Yeah. Town gets a bad rep, man. It's crazy. And it's changed. It's gotten big. I mean, it's building, but it still kind of has that rep where it's like, yeah, that's what it is out here. So, or out there in that area. So, yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Are there multiracial people in pop culture that you look up to?
I'm not in pop culture. I can't tell you.
Hey, Star Wars is pop culture a little bit. I mean,
Do
it's
they have any black
popular.
people?
I mean, I would like empathize with maybe Yoda, you know. I feel like an alien out of like existence, but I'm also a Jedi. Like
I
that'd
feel
be
like
cool.
Jar Jar Binks.
There you go.
But like a
Um,
multiracial person in the series, no.
I
If
don't. I mean,
anything,
I feel
like
like
I
I
wanted
would.
to be cool. Oh, sorry.
Can you
No,
even think of one though? A multiracial person in a series?
I don't know if he's multiracial. Landau Calrissian, like the guy with the he owns Cloud City. Han Solo's friend.
Yeah, we know Lando. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. What was his name? Billy something, the guy that played him.
No.
Billy.
Hold up, I can find out.
It's Billy something. But pop culture, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe Miguel, the singer, Alicia Keys. I mean, those are the only ones I can think that are kind of like, that pop out that I grew
yeah.
up listening to. But other than that, yeah, Holly Berry. There you go. Well, of course, Holly Berry's, yeah, standard. Yeah, but now, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think more prevalently, you just see more blacks, I think. But yeah, I don't know anybody mixed that I would say change.
I
Maybe
feel like
Obama, I guess, the president. I mean, that's pretty much, I guess that's the first transition to change. Yeah, Billy D. Williams. There you go. So yeah, I think that's Obama being, the first black president, also him being multiracial as well. So that says a lot.
But that's the thing too, is like we say the first black president, and it's like the first multiracial. It's like
to black people, it's like
for us, like you're also like multiracial, so you don't think of people in that sense. Like I mean, I wouldn't even think of Alicia Keys until he said that right now as multiracial. Until he said that, because I was like, okay, black girl singing, blah blah blah. No, Beyonce, no, I don't know, because like again, it's the same thing people do to us, which is, hey, what are you mixed with? Are you mixed? Oh no, you're just light skinned. Okay, so some people aren't even mixed; they're just lighter, and they get the whole multiracial vibe. So I don't follow pop culture too much to be that, but I've never idolized anyone anyways in the pop culture. I mean, I listened to Avril Lavigne growing up, so if that doesn't tell you how mixed up our generation is in general,
Yeah, I'm getting the Blink 182 vibes from you guys.
Yeah, it's there. I mean, and that's the funniest thing, because it's our generation too. Like, you start to see that we're a little bit different, and we don't really see things, because you can be in a car with people and everybody will be singing that one Blink 182 song. You're like, you? I mean, my boyfriend was like, I started singing one alternative rock song. I don't know what it was. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, like I know this song. He's like, we're just a weird generation. It's like, yep.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask this next question, and then I'm going to turn a light on it here. I'm not used to it getting dark yet. So I'm just like this little floating head right now. Okay. So the next question is, do you feel like you need to or have to choose to identify as one particular race? That is the question.
I think it's code switching. A lot of it is code switching. I mean, and you do it naturally no matter who you are. You go to work and you're professional, you come home, you may curse, it just depends on where you're at. But I think if I'm at, I have some friends that are Mexican, and when I'm with them, it just naturally comes out, like the phrases and no posguao and all that. Like it just comes out. We were in the Valley not even too long ago, and I mean, it's just a different environment, and you adapt to that, and you've always done it, so you don't even think about it. Like, oh, I'm with my Black friends. Oh, da, 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 and then all of a sudden, I don't know. Like I said, I just think it's code switching at this point for us.
Yeah.
Michael said earlier, what did you say? You fit in where you get in?
Yeah, it's one or the other, but it's mainly one side. But yeah, I think for me, I just identify as Black. I just how I see myself. Like I said, it took me last year. I was like, man, it was just something that kicked in my head, and I was like, dude, I've been Black my whole life, and it was like this phenomenon in my head, like, whoa, like no matter how much I think that I'm somebody else, I'm like, no, I've been this. I'm gonna be this. No matter, I can't change. I didn't, but I wouldn't ask to be anyone else or anything else than what I am, because I've learned to just learn to accept and love myself for, like I said, I didn't ask to be here. Nobody asked to be here. Nobody asked to be who we are, but we're all here. So, it's like I said, it's, I can't do anything. So I've accepted myself for who I am. But like she said, code switching, kind of, when to, be a certain way, or, especially when you're at work, you act professional, and then, people, and it's funny because at my job, I clean pools. I'm the only Black guy that cleans pools, and it trips the guys at work. They're just like, dude, we've never met anybody that's Black that cleans pools. But then we have Hispanics that work there with us. So then I tell them, like, yeah, I'm also Hispanic. So, when I have kind of the work hat on, and, when I had longer hair, I'd look like a Hispanic pool boy, and they would, joke with me, and they would call me Black Cabana and all these stupid names. But it's just one of those things kind of where I've learned to just grow in love and grow with myself, and just accept, like, hey, this is not going to change for the rest of my life. So I just have to learn to adapt. Obviously, like she said, things are getting better. So, this is probably the best time to I'd say, be Black. Because obviously, like you said, 50 years ago, we didn't have these rights and these things. And that was 50 years ago. And you're thinking, man, dude, that wasn't too long. So the fact that we were blessed to have the rights, and the fact that we're having this conversation now, says, that things have changed. So more definitely. So good thing.
I don't really switch roles that way. My friends aren't really racial specific. I guess most of my friends are really just like white at the moment. But like even when in high school and I had like a bunch of like Mexican friends or like Black friends, they were into what I was into. So there wasn't like oh, I have to act Black right now kind of thing. And like I can and I will when I have to, depending on what the situation is. But like for the most part, I just kind of was myself and they were themselves, and like everything kind of worked out, and I didn't really have to deal with that as much. But sometimes I did, I guess, like if I had to, the situation called for it, especially if there was like some perk for getting it, be like, oh yeah, I can do this, let's do that.
I don't think it's even seen as a bad thing. Like I feel comfortable with the code switch when I'm with my family and that's how they're talking, because it's kind of like, you have someone with a accent and you hear the accent, then you kind of start copying the accent, even though you're not like British or whatever. And you're like, oh, I don't do that. Like, that's not how I talk. It's just, I think, a natural human thing. So like when you are around a bunch of different nationalities, you kind of fit in, that would be like going to Germany and not drinking a beer. Like that would be weird, I feel like, so I don't know, you just kind of get in there.
Okay. So we are down to our final question for the evening. And it is, what have you learned as a multiracial person that you would want your kids to know in dealing with the world?
I don't got kids, so y'all want to start that?
Me and my kid are a little weird because I married in her. My wife is multiracial as well, so my kid is definitely a mutt. He's gonna be half Mexican, a quarter black, and a quarter. Well, he is half Mexican, a quarter black, and a quarter white. Just by percentages, that doesn't mean anything. He's like a little 5-foot white boy, basically. That's what everyone sees. And I don't know, just be himself. Like, he is what he is. He's doomed socially. His mom's a socially awkward, just like me. So, I mean, he's gonna have a tough time. It's genetic. It's gonna happen. But it is what it is, and to just take it at face value, because I mean, you're not gonna get anything more or less out of life than what you want. So, go out there and get what you want.
Yeah, to piggyback off Jess, I mean, like, it's just one of those things where you're just like, well, I mean, yeah, we got he'd be half white, quarter black, and a quarter Mexican. But I mean, if you look at him, he looks just like me, the same color and everything. You're like, what? He's a quarter black. And people trip when you tell me he's only 25% black. But, you know, it goes back to the same thing when they see my son, they're like, he's black. You know, they know that's the first thing they think, he's black. But when, you know, me being around him, there's moments where I'm like, you look like a little French boy, or, you know, Indian. I mean, again, you get those, you know, things, and, you know, I get those jokes, and I joke with him, and I'm like, he's I'm a white boy, and because, you know, he's half white, so he's more white than he is black and Hispanic, but he obviously looks black. So, you know, it's one of those, again, I think maybe when he gets older, he'll be more aware. But like I said, with us having kids now in this day and age, he's probably going to go to school with kids that look just like him.
Right.
So, you know, yeah, exactly. So it's going to be like, you know, it's going to be the kid that doesn't look like him that they're going to pick on, or they're going to be questioning, or because that's where you see a lot of more kids that look like him than, you know, than ever before. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean,
yeah,
it's becoming the norm.
Yeah, it's a norm. It's like if your kid's not mixed, it's like, what's wrong? But yeah, it's like I said, you know, with things changing and evolving, and again, it almost feels like it's a fad now. It's like you're starting to see a lot more multiracial kids coming out and, you know, being born and things like that. And so, like I said, with him growing, especially here in Austin, it's changing, and being a multicultural area, you know, you'll probably see a lot of, again, more kids that look like your kids than anything else, you know, in the next, you know, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I don't have any kids, but work at a school, and I will tell you, like, the more diverse the school is, the better it just feels, the vibe. I mean, and the kids, they'll tell you too. I mean, even our kids that, you know, come over, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, I like it here, you know, and those are the best places I've worked at. So if I like had any advice later in life to even my nephew, or, you know, kids that I deal with, or if I have kids of my own, it'd just be like, middle school and junior high, or middle school and high school suck. And it doesn't matter if you're multiracial or not, like, you're going to go through it some way, and just be open and talk to us. And, you know, we'll get through some of those situations together, and leave it at that.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you guys for sharing this evening with us, sharing some time with us, and giving us all of your perspectives. You know, these conversations are important, you know, and talking about the way different people feel about themselves in the world, and how want other people to perceive them in the world is, you know, it's always an interesting topic, and it's been a great discussion. And next month, I believe we're going to be doing addiction, more conversation, less stigmatization. So we'll be talking to people who have struggled with addiction of all kinds. So I hope you guys will consider joining us for that conversation. I'm sure it will also be interesting. And thank you so much. Is there anything that anybody here would like to add to this conversation? Something that maybe they feel like didn't get brought up, something that they feel like they just kind of want to throw out there for the attendees before we wrap this up and let you guys go about the rest of your Wednesday evening?
How often do you guys push these interviews out? Like, cause I want to hear other people's perspective on, I guess, on on different categories. Like, I guess in the addiction, that sounds pretty interesting. Again, being a child of parents who were addicted to drugs, I would love to see other people's perspectives on how they were able to overcome their addiction.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
that-
question. So we do this, typically we have these conversations. Normally it's on the last Wednesday of the month. This month was a little bit different, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to be on the last Wednesday of the month. Once you have signed up for one of the webinars, when we email out, since you're a panelist, you'll get an email kind of telling you that there's another one coming out. You can register for it. You can come in as an attendee. You can also hit us up on our on YouTube. You can access all of the previous videos by going to the GTX Connect website, and you can find Why Can't We Be Friends through there, and you can watch any of the past webinars. And I'm looking and I see Chuck. So the website, is it the new website? So we have a new website, which I think they're going to transfer everything over anyway, but it is gtxconnect.org. And you can register for webinars through there as well. But Michael, now that you've been a participant, I think you'll automatically get invitations to all of our future events.
Nice.
So yeah, and anytime people get these emails, they can forward these emails to friends or relatives or whoever they want. And if you want any of your friends to kind of check out this episode of this program, you can direct them to the website as well. And typically I send out a link too, so to you guys.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. I feel like I just got to say a whole lot of words. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much. And this has been another great conversation. We appreciate everyone's willingness to be so honest and to share and to kind of connect with us in that way. I liked what Justin was saying earlier about, I just found ways to connect with people. That's it. Like, that's what I did, and that's what we're doing, right? We're just trying to find ways to connect with people too. So thanks again. And I look forward to seeing some of you at future events.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have a good day. Don't have too much fun.
Bye.